Welcome into 5 Wide Fantasy. Today's video, we're looking at the worst schedules in the fantasy playoffs at the running back position. I've got 5 teams with some terrible schedules to finish out the season. If you guys are new to the channel, be sure to subscribe, like the video if you enjoyed, and comment down below with any players you're looking to trade for or trade away, or if you're looking to trade some of these guys away, who you should be getting. Happy to help out as much as I can. And our Discord, all these kind of questions you ask in the comments, there's plenty of people in our Discord. That link is down below in the description. A great place to ask any questions or just talk fantasy football and the NFL. Again, I always stress this. If you guys haven't checked out actually the previous video we dropped on the best schedules, definitely go check that out for some players to trade for. But I mean, the number one thing here is you want to get to all you need to do is get to the playoffs. You don't need to put together the best record. Most of the time you're going to be playing whoever you're going to play, you just want to ensure that you have the best guys available and playing for the playoffs. So here, there are some guys that might have helped you get to this point in the season, but you need to be willing to trade them if they have these bad schedules. The first team up is the Cincinnati Bengals. The Bengals have a terrible playoff matchup. They go against the Tampa Bay Bucks, the New England Patriots, and Buffalo Bills. All of these teams are right around, I believe, the top 10 in fantasy points allowed to running backs. And for Joe Mixon, continues to struggle with efficiency. It's been a struggle his entire career. Some of that on him, a lot of that, though, on the offensive line, but continues to be one of the least efficient starting running backs in the NFL. He's averaging just 3.9 yards per carry. He has a breakaway run rate of 2.6%, which is 44th at the position. He's just not breaking many big plays. And this Bengals team is actually throwing the ball on 62.4% of plays. This is a pass-heavy offense that has started to move even more pass-heavy over the last 3 or 4 weeks. The thing with Mixon, though, is, of course, the opportunity is still there for him. He's first in red zone touches. He's third in carries. He's third in targets. He has the volume, but I think in these matchups, these are teams that Mixon can't put together, the poor efficiency numbers and then save the week with the touchdown. The Pats and the Bucks are top 3 in the NFL in touchdowns allowed per game to the running back position. I think this is going to be tough for Joe Mixon to be able to return you some significant value. He's a player that needs those soft baby shit matchups that give him the opportunity to be able to put up a massive, massive week. He just fluctuates so significantly in production from a fantasy perspective that I cannot trust him in the fantasy playoffs. These matchups are far too difficult for him, for me to be willing to play him. So if you have him, I would certainly look to deal him. If this is for a lot of my leagues, this is my trade deadline, so look to do it as soon as you can. Next up is the Las Vegas Raiders. The Raiders have the number 1 and number 2 defense in fantasy points allowed to running backs in the playoffs. That is a nightmare of a scenario for them. The Patriots are number 2. Then they go against the Steelers, who are 20th, a decent matchup there. And then the San Francisco 49ers are the number 1 defense against opposing running backs. Vegas, their struggles throughout the season, and being that they just have such a poor record, have made them a team that's has a high passing volume. They're 63.6% passing rate on the season, but in the last 3 games, they're up to 68.4%. That is a significant amount of passing volume. But here's the thing. Again, here I'm just giving you guys all the information. You're going to make the decision on your own of what you want to do. I'm just making sure you guys have all the info you need. But there's 2 games here, the Patriots and Steelers, where I could see them winning, right? And Josh Jacobs has been incredible this season, not just from a fantasy perspective, but only Nick Chubb has broken more tackles than him. He's even averaging over 4 receptions per game in the last 7 weeks, which is surprising to me. There was a lot of talk in the offseason leading up to the year that McDaniels would look to more of a pass-catching option at the running back position to spell him on 3rd down and whatnot and long down and distance. That doesn't seem to be happening. But my problem is, as much as I don't think those 2 matchups are really that intimidating, the Patriots are a team, obviously, like I mentioned earlier, that just aren't allowing a lot of touchdowns to running backs. But the problem is can you really win your championship going against the San Francisco 49ers in the final week, who are allowing just 67 rushing yards per game? I mean, that's the theme of the video to me. The 49ers are the team you just don't want to play in the fantasy playoffs. And to me, I don't think Josh Jacobs is going to win me a fantasy championship in week 17 going against the San Francisco 49ers. So that's really the bottom line here. There are players that you can look to that could win you that fantasy championship. I'm pretty sure Travis Etienne has the Houston Texans in the final week of the fantasy season. If you want to flip Josh Jacobs for Travis Etienne, I don't have a problem with it whatsoever because I think Etienne can win you your championship. So Jacobs could be a guy to deal. Next up is the Los Angeles Chargers. We're talking about some good running backs here from a fantasy perspective who have bad matchups to finish the season. But it is a nightmare for the Chargers run game in these matchups to finish the fantasy season. The Titans, the Colts, and the Rams. All three of these teams are top 5 in rushing DVOA, and the Chargers have graded as the worst run blocking O-line in the NFL, courtesy of PFF. And in these 3 games, my expectation is, as a Chargers fan, that Mike Williams and Keenan Allen will be back and available for this team. So that's going to have hindrance on the fact that Austin Eckler has just been a freak of nature at the position when it comes to the receiving game. He's averaging 9 targets per game. He's had 7+ targets in 7 of 9 games, and he's never had less than 4 receptions in a game. So can I tell you, obviously right now, Eckler, it doesn't matter about the poor matchup. Like this past week, he had a poor matchup. He had 12 targets in the game, and his floor was significantly elevated. So is that floor there, though, if Keenan Allen and Mike Williams are healthy? Because I think there could be more of a downfield passing game with these two available, and they will not be able to run the ball against these teams, straight up. You can't run the ball against the Titans in general. The Chargers won't be able to do it. And then we have the Colts and the Rams, who are also very elite against the run. So honestly, I do think Austin Eckler is a player you could trade. If you can package Austin Eckler to get Derrick Henry, I would do it, because we talked about that in the best matchups of the fantasy playoffs. Henry's one of those guys that's just a great schedule. So I'm not saying do whatever you can to rid yourself of him, because he still has that floor in the receiving game, but those matchups are really intimidating. Really intimidating. Next up is the Green Bay Packers. The Packers, another team with a very tough schedule. They go Rams, Dolphins, Vikings. You're seeing it on your screen, obviously. And all 4 of these teams, top 4 in run defense grade. They're very good against the run. I have a ton of respect for these 3 teams against the run. And Minnesota and Miami are top 5 in rushing yards allowed to the running backs. So really difficult here. And here's the thing. So these are tough matches to be able to run the ball, right? Aaron Jones, A.J. Dillon, well, maybe they can score. Well, these 2 guys have 5 combined inside the 5 carries. Eno Benjamin, who just got cut from the Arizona Cardinals, has more inside the 5 carries than Aaron Jones. Aaron Jones has one inside the 5 carry. These 2 rank 34th and 36th at the position in red zone carries. There are 9 running backs in the NFL who have more red zone carries on their own than Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon have combined. These guys are in difficult matchups where they're going to be not going to be able to run the ball efficiently, and they just don't run the ball on those valuable opportunities from a fantasy perspective. So this is, to me, a very intimidating 3 matchups. I'm looking to trade, A.J. Dillon, I'm not getting a return from A.J. Dillon. Nobody wants A.J. Dillon. Aaron Jones is a player that, of course, people see value in, and I'm probably looking to deal him. I do not want to play him in these 3 matchups. It's one where we're still... the bottom line is they're still splitting these opportunities. It's not like Aaron Jones is going to get 25 carries a game here. That's just not happening. And the Packers, their pass rate, about middle of the league, 58% on the season, but they are running it more lately. We saw the success against the Cowboys. This is something that they could move towards for the rest of the season, putting that high rushing volume together, because their passing rate's down to 50.8% in the last 3 weeks. But regardless, these are matchups where I think they're going to need to throw the ball in. I think the Vikings can be had in the air. I think the Dolphins can be had in the air. I think the Rams are a team you'd rather pass on than run the ball on. So I don't want either one of these guys on my team for the fantasy playoffs. So if you have them, I'm looking to deal them. And again, if you guys are watching this video, go watch the players with the best fantasy playoff schedules at the running back position, or go watch the players with the best wide receiver schedule at the running back, or at the best schedule at the wide receiver position, because that video is up on the channel as well. Go check out those videos. Those are players that I'd be targeting instead. But the Packers are undoubtedly a team I want to avoid in the fantasy playoffs. Last team to go through, the Seattle Seahawks. A guy in Kenneth Walker that I've been adamant about selling high on. And I said that last week was the week you wanted to play him for a few weeks, and then the week before Tampa is when you wanted to sell him. If you haven't sold him, I have a buddy, shout out Spencer, that I've been telling every week, trade him. The bad matchups are coming. And he won't listen to me. So hopefully you guys will listen to me. The Seahawks, very difficult. And it comes down to the bottom line being the San Francisco 49ers are the first week of the fantasy playoffs. If you do not have a bye, I am not going to play Kenneth Walker against San Francisco. They're the best run defense in the NFL. They're number one in fantasy points allowed. They're going to get healthier. They're going to be even better. This is a team you will not want to run the ball against. Kansas City is a team that is 23rd, but a lot of that comes down to the receiving game. They've been pretty bad against opposing running backs in the receiving game. They've been pretty good against the run, though. And the Jets close things out. The Jets have been very good, very, very good against opposing running backs. Definitely a team you don't want to play from a fantasy perspective against them. So what do we do with Kenneth Walker? One thing I do want to note, because I have been a proponent of Kenneth Walker, is not a receiving back. He never played that role in college. I don't think he's going to play in the NFL. That rang true through the first 4 weeks or 5 weeks or so of like his arrival from Rashad Penny's injury. But last week was really, really interesting, and it would be silly of me to not note it because, again, we're just giving you the information. You make the decision with what you want to do. Walker had a 72.5% route participation rate, by far the highest of his career in the NFL. He had 8 targets, 6 receptions, and 55 yards. Now, pretty much all of that came in the last 4 minutes of the game. But I mean, is this what we can expect moving forward, him running this many routes? If that happens, then of course that elevates his floor, because Travis Homer was playing, the long down and distance snaps, the 2-minute drill snaps up until this point. He was had a 75% share of both of those situations. But here, the other thing to me is we saw him struggle against a difficult opponent in Tampa Bay this past week, 10 rushes for only 17 yards. And if you look at his success through those 5 weeks, 4 or 5 weeks, whatever it was, since Penny went down, his matchups were very good. They were all teams that were outside the top 20 in rushing DVOA and run defense. So they were really positive matchups for him. And not to say that I don't think Kenneth Walker is a very talented player. He definitely is. But now we're going into matchups that are not beneficiary or not easy ones for the run game. And I'm not sure Seattle can be as successful. They may need to lean on the pass game more. These are games that they could potentially be trailing in as well. And that, to me, is cause for concern for Kenneth Walker, because I'm not sure that route participation, this amount of snaps are sustainable for Kenneth Walker, that I do see him more in that run first role and Homer gets more work in the passing game. But regardless, I think Kenneth Walker is someone you should sell. You really should sell. So if you guys enjoyed the video, 5 teams that have the most difficult fantasy schedules for their running backs. Like the video if you enjoyed, subscribe to the channel as well, comment down below, and of course, our Discord, that link is down below in the description, and our partners over at Betfred. If you sign up at Betfred, deposit $50, bet $50 on any market, they're going to give you $250 in free bets. If you guys have been watching the channel and haven't taken advantage of that yet, and you're in a legal gambling state that Betfred is available, you need to go do that before the season's up. A great opportunity to get some free bets and boost that account up and get to playing for the rest of the NFL season. Thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you next time.